your messages. And yes, guys, the playlist had to be hot like that because we're just coming from the weekend. Auntie Becky, please watch. Patience in Mabuku, thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome, Becky K. How was your weekend? My weekend was great. It was amazing. I'll tell you all about that later. Isaac Piri, Mount Pleasant, thank you so much for writing in. Tavengwa Chitanga, thank you for writing in. 6629, thank you for tuning in. What brings back memories? All right, so the song that we played just before I pushed the fader up was a song titled Izolo, and some of you were asking, what does it mean? So this guy went out with his friends and things happened, and now he's explaining to his woman, no, my guy, I'm honest, I didn't cheat on you, although something almost happened, but the guys, they vimbered me and they stopped me from getting myself into trouble. Then I hlanganat with umalume yabona, and umalume bekashotele imali for utshwala lamatequila, and then I said, malume, don't worry, ngizokugcwalisela imali yakho, and then the money went, baby, the money is gone. And then the guy is like, no, serious, please forgive me. And the girl is probably just like, I've had it with you. So how many of you had to explain yourself this past weekend? VIP section, VVIP. It's okay. And there you were, having to explain yourself why you got home at 3 a.m. What were you doing? What time did the show finish? Yeah, we give you 30 minutes to get home. Even 1 hour shako. Ongochite. Angisakwazi nokukhangela emehlweni. Angisakwazi nokubheka emehlweni uzongibheka ke. Yeah. So think about that while we tune into Hustle Hard with George Billionaire. And our topic today is entrepreneurship, a calling.
George Billionaire, and you're listening to Cappy Talk 100.4 FM, Harare's heartbeat. For yours truly, Becky K.
Holla, George.
Holla.
What it do?
It's your boy, George Billionaire.
In the building.
With none other, the one and only.
Bam, 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 bam.
Back live on the airwaves.
Yes,
internationally known.
Let them know.
On the microphone.
Absolutely.
Becky K.
Yes.
Becky, it's good to have you back. Second week back, and
yeah. Well, third now.
Third week,
yeah.
And it's like you never left. It's amazing how time flies.
Yes, I was laughing with one of the listeners last week. His name is Cyril. He actually commented and said, "Hey, Becky, this is the second week. And I'm like, you know what, guys? Stop it."
You're big for the pausers. You're doing it for the pausers.
I'm doing it for the pausers. They have to feel that I'm back.
Yes.
They have to feel it. How was your weekend?
Weekend was amazing.
What did you get up to?
Big shout out to our local superstar.
Yes.
Dinim Kudze. It's very important.
Of course.
It's very important that we saw another successful launch. And one thing I love about the local fans here in Zimbabwe, whether they're Job Praiser fans or anybody's fans, the fans will always come out in numbers to support that thing that you are doing.
Yeah.
And even as we go into today's program and today's show, you will never know the number of people who will support you, your hustle, in what you do until you start. So this weekend I saw the aerial shot. Amazing. That just shows you. So imagine we never knew about Job Praiser and he never started. Back in the day, actually, Zambia, one man band, Ari Edgar, and he gave up many years ago.
Yeah.
We would have never realized that amazing album launch.
Absolutely.
Far better and greater than the one he did before. And, it just sets a standard internationally, even for our local guys, to say, listen, if you work hard on your craft, even you too can be able to have an amazing launch with management and all those people. So the secret to life is to get started, stay true to that thing, and you'll be amazed by the numbers of people. And that's the same thing with business, Becky.
True story.
Business is about the people who will come and support your hustle. And you will never know if people will come if you never start.
True.
And that's the exact thing we're going to be talking about today with this amazing topic, which Becky K and the amazing people who sent in the questions decided to say, listen, we need to talk about this specific topic today.
Yeah, because most of the questions that do come through, especially after the show, I think people end up rethinking the topic or thinking otherwise about certain things that would have been said, and then they ask themselves questions like, am I even called to be doing this? Because if we look at the definition of an entrepreneur or entrepreneurship, it's the process of starting and operating a new business, typically with the goal of making a profit, right? It involves identifying a market, identifying opportunity, developing a business idea, and taking on financial risks to bring that idea to fruition. Now, many people have viewed entrepreneurship as a calling, suggesting that it requires a deep passion and commitment and, you know, spiritual connotations to it. Like, you can't just start, you have to have God in it, or whatever spiritual connotation that they want to draw this inspiration from. So this perspective emphasizes that successful entrepreneurs often feel a strong personal drive to solve problems and make a difference rather than just pursuing financial gain. So you find that there's some people, business, it hasn't brought in more than $1,000 since it started, but they're still doing it.
Yeah.
Yes, they're not shutting it down. They're not saying, let me try a different approach. They're like, no,
we are okay.
We are okay. This is what we are doing.
Yeah.
And then which then brings about the question with is side hustle, business, is it a calling? So what are the entrepreneurship and side hustles are out there that you think require some form of calling? Or if I just think of an idea, I must just go on it. If it fails, it fails. If it succeeds, it succeeds.
You know, that's an amazing analysis, Becky K, of what people think about a calling. So one thing called a calling is one thing I will beg to differ on, saying he is called into business. And how I would love to define this is by this quote, which is going to make a lot of sense to people once I go through the various examples. As you were talking, my mind rushed to so many things and so many examples of people who began businesses that were not their calling, but that had interest in what they are now doing. There's a quote that says, an apple does not fall far from a tree, which basically gets to talk about the issue that there are people in this life who you may be working at specific organizations now, but what's currently happening to you, you are in training for potentially something that could become your personal business in future. Number one. Number two, you could be in a situation where you are not being served right in a specific business, and you feel in a way you could do a better business, a better way of serving people by you actually seizing and seeing that opportunity. That's number two. So I'm going to give some practical examples to people out there, giving these two examples. And I'm going to begin with the later of somebody who began a business and now is a fully fledged, operational, profitable business internationally because they saw a problem and they could solve that problem for people. There's a man by the name, he founded Virgin Airlines. Right? Richard Branson, right? We all know him. And the reason why he began the airline is because if you look back and you read, he wasn't served correctly. And you know, the flight was changed, you know, there was issues. And then because he felt very touched, especially hearing the complaints from people, he decided to say, wait a minute, I can actually provide a solution so that I don't have people being inconvenienced in this manner. And that's what actually then launched Virgin Airlines, which we now are aware of, and it became alive because of a specific problem that he went through. Right. So that's the first way. So sometime when you see people complaining, murmuring, and you say, wait a minute, I can actually be a solution to this, that people are complaining, that, you know, things are not being delivered on time, and etc. and whatever it is, the weather is not behaving, and I'm one person who, you see that problem and you seize the opportunity and solve the problem.
So there's two things that you've mentioned here. There's service. Okay, three actually. There's service, calling, and passion. Those are the three factors that would actually drive someone.
That's right.
Into an entrepreneurship journey.
That's correct.
Okay.
So the second one that I mentioned, that sometimes there are people who work in an organization in training, and I'm going to give practical examples.
That's for the preparation side of things. Yes,
the preparation side. So there are people who started off in a form of employment at the beginning. They got a job and they worked at this organization. So I will give you examples practically here in Zimbabwe. We've got the likes of Dr. Strive Masiwa, who back in the day, he used to work at the Post and Telecommunications, back in the day, PTC, now known as Tel1.
Right.
And he worked there. And from that organization came the zeal of wanting to create, basically serving people. Those were the days we had landlines. There were no cell phones then. But if you look at him and his story of where he originally worked, it has a lot to do with where he is today. Now, there are no more cables up on the poles, but now they are underground and they are all over.
Right.
I'll give another example. We know Dr. Nigel Chanakira. He used to work for a former bank, and then he also then found he had ambition and love in this, and he began his own bank. We also go on to Amai Dr. Rebecca Chisamba, who at first used to have a talk show on our local television program here in Zimbabwe. But now she runs and holds her own talk show by the name Amai Rebecca Chisamba. I would go on to talk about Philip Mataranyika, who used to work for an insurance and funeral policy company back in the day. But now, similar to what he's doing today, he found a better, more efficient, more productive way, and, grew it up massive scale to so many things. So you'll find there are even pastors. I know most pastors, prophets here in the country. We've got Prophet Mahandiwa, who at first, he was a pastor for a former church until he found his personal calling in now his own ministry. I could go to speak about many more people. So this is a very simple example to say, wait, there are times you can become an entrepreneur, but at the beginning, you are in training stage, right? So there are people who are at work today, and you don't know that you are actually part of something bigger than you think. And it reminds me so many times of when I used to work for the former air conditioning company before I started this, my own Pro Air.
Of which you were there for the lesson, the preparation, and the training.
Until you see an opportunity to say, wait a minute, I would want to do things in this manner. I actually think this can be done more effectively in this, that, and that manner. And that's exactly what happens in business. And what happens with entrepreneurship is that there's no new thing under the sun. There's no new business you can say, this is originally my idea. But the way you conduct yourself, your customer experience,
right,
the way you have, relations, your backup service, your efficiency, how people feel after you've given them your service is what will cause the multitudes of people to now then flock to you. I'll give another example of that. We have a great musician here in the country by the name Alec Macheso, who originally, he used to play for Nicolas Zakaria as a backup bass guitarist, right? But had he not jumped off ship, we would have never had the amazing hit songs that are now being sung across the world from Alec Macheso. But at first, he had to serve under somebody before he began to run his own.
True.
So in life, there is a season and a time for everything. And there are many people who say, George, entrepreneurship, it's not for everybody. if we all become entrepreneurs, who will work for the other?
You actually then went into the next question that was coming out. That is okay. Like, how do I know that entrepreneurship is the right thing for me to do? Because just like you said, some will say it's not for everybody, but you're saying, come on, guys. I'm not saying quit your job and then start this thing, but just having that other stream of income is really helpful.
Yeah, so people like to speak about entrepreneurship in a negative manner because they have not experienced it or tried it, and they want to shun away from it. And I speak from experience because I used to be one of those people who used to call myself the best marketer, the best salesman. This was my self-affirmation back then when I used to work at my various places of work. But I can tell you, once I began to taste entrepreneurship, I began to have a different revelation, because what people who were in entrepreneurship spoke about, you know, when you go to business forums and you hear how, you know, Strive Masiwa sold his house to believe in his business, and how this guy sold his car, and, you know, the risk that is a very huge part of entrepreneurship. So for you to become an entrepreneur, you have to be a high risk taker, because remember, this can either work
or it cannot. So if it doesn't work, does it mean it was wrong?
But for most entrepreneurs, they do not have a plan B. They have a plan A, and that's that. So in life, I love the word of God. It says it's a double-minded man cannot please God. So when you begin something and you have doubts, I don't think it's the right thing.
Judge, my family will die of hunger. I must have a plan B.
So when you have a plan B, leave plan A and stick to the plan B, which is what most people then do by staying in the JOB, because they want to remain just over broke, which is okay for majority of people. But as provoking as that sounds, when you taste entrepreneurship by becoming a risk taker, which a lot of people do not have that ability, because starting a business is a risk.
Yes, it is.
I give a simple example of Ja Preza, who now, after 15 plus years of being in business, you can now command crowds. I was there back then at Jazz 105 when Ja used to be an upcoming act for Dr. Oliver Mtukudzi, and he was a one-man band with his baggy African clothes, and he was playing Mbira by himself. But now, if you look at the risk he took, being a sole individual, no manager, no nothing, he would get paid X amount and play just before the main act came. But now, to see the volumes of people, it's a risk being taken. And that's what people don't want to do. They want to say, and the most difficult thing for people is getting started, because starting is difficult. To have something called a brand, to have people come and buy a product from you, it means you must have been around and existing for a period that people now know that, oh, okay, if you're looking for X product, you go to this place. The most difficult thing about anything in people's lives is getting started. But once you start and you have a positive, don't give up attitude, there's no way in life you can fail. Your question to, what if it doesn't work? The greatest lessons in life are from your greatest failures. To anybody who ever became great, they failed many times. But the thing with those ones who became successful, they dusted themselves up with even more enthusiasm, got up. They fell, they've fallen, they've been hurt, they've been betrayed, they lost this, somebody took the product, etc. They learned that next time I need to do it differently. And those are the guys who succeed.
Right.
So, yes, entrepreneurship is not for everybody. Right. It's for those who strongly believe that, you know what, I can do this better. There's a better way of doing this. I just don't want to be a consumer, because most people will die consumers. I love what I was talking about today in the mentorship program.
Right.
Today, I was saying, when people mention your name, what is it that people regard you and relate you with.
Come on.
If you are just, that's that accountant, that's that manager, that's that supervisor, or that's that radio DJ, if that's all people see, there's nothing that people can exchange money for, because you are just an employee.
So
you don't
Okay,
get
okay.
anything else other than just being that person. But when your name is mentioned by you providing a product or a service, that directly adds money directly to your pocket, not via an organization. Because we know Becky K, radio DJ. But when you mention Becky K, I was seeing your timeline this weekend. I saw you emceeing this event. I saw you going to do a masterclass at that event. I saw you training people there. So people don't understand that Becky is a well-rounded, faceted individual who is getting streams of income, not just from radio alone. She actually has other things. When people mention her name, they say, wait, are you wanting to have an event done? Are you wanting her to come and do etiquette classes? Are you wanting her to train your staff? There are various things. So when people mention your name and a product or a service comes, most of the time that's going to directly benefit you. But most of the people listening today, when you mention your name, your title at work comes. But there's no way other than the organization that you're going to get income in your pocket by you just remaining the JOB individual.
Right, 0719100404 is the WhatsApp number. If you've got questions for George Billionaire, please do send them through. And Becky, how is Uncle Billy? This one is from Zelda. How are you, Uncle Billy?
Uncle Billy is winning. And I say to people all the time, you only become what you talk about.
Come
so
on now.
always speak positivity.
Yeah.
When it's cloudy outside and things are not economically okay, speak forth always what you want to see. Never let your mouth utter what you don't want to see or happen in your life.
True story. This one says, hi Becky, hi Billy. It's Uncle Billy, please. If you're going to call him Billy, you put Uncle. Okay, don't just be a Billy. It's Uncle Billy. Hi Becky, hi Uncle Billy. When you said entrepreneurship is a calling, how far do you take the moral code? I'm trying to dissect what they're
so
moral code.
A calling, people think that something is
the moral compass. Okay.
So a calling, and we look at it, people say he's got a calling to minister the word of God, but it's through the experiences that you would have had.
Okay.
Right. So most people want to spiritually connotate things, that we know this guy was born to be an entrepreneur. It's not that. This guy was born a leader. There's nothing like that. You're never born anything other than yourself. But through the experiences that you encounter, those make you who you are. So because of what we're exposed to, that's what makes us different. And I love the story of Joseph in the Bible, where Joseph went through many experiences which ultimately led him to become the person that he became. So you cannot become great without going through experiences. You can never become an entrepreneur if you have not been exposed to certain things that bring out that entrepreneur in you. And for me, I always tell the story about me and how wherever I used to work, people used to think I owned the company because of the way I dressed, the way I was very passionate about the business.
That's quite big.
And people were like, wow. So there's a time when we went to a site and they asked only the bosses to come in, and my boss was somewhere. Then I was told to get in, and then when I was in there, and then I saw him outside, I was like, my boss goes, oh, we thought you are. No, we only. But that was because of what people saw. And people said, all this time we thought it was your business. And it says a lot about how you uphold yourself and what people say. So sometimes when people say something about you, that, wow, you're such a great, take that as a point of direction of where you're supposed to go. It's because of the way you uphold yourself, the way you deal with customers. There's a specific way you talk to people that people say, is this your business? Then you say, no, I'm just it shows you've got that people skills. It shows you've got a talent, a gift that maybe your boss may not have, which potentially can lead you to actually beginning and starting a business for your own, because you've got the customer relation, you've got the technical knowledge, and that's potentially a business you're sitting on, rather than just relying on that job. Which I cannot stop emphasizing to people, that you don't want to waste the most productive years of your life just relying on one stream of income.
George, when you talk about the different streams of income, I think break it down for people. Are you talking about making millions, making thousands, making hundreds? If my entrepreneurship journey / side hustle, which we still need you to break it down for us, is giving me $50 a month, is that the extra income you're talking about? If $50 that I didn't have, is that what I'm going to then hold on to and be like, I make an extra $50 on top of my $200 salary and or $400 salary and I make an extra $50. Am I holding on to that $50 and saying this is the start of my entrepreneurship journey, or I'm saying this is the start and the end of the entrepreneurship journey?
Becky, I love this example. It says everything that is now great began small.
Okay.
So there's no multi-million organization running today that began with great sales. The greatest secret to getting ahead is getting started. This is my key point to people out there. So when you start seeing you can actually make an additional income of $50 off your salary, that's a lot of money that came from something that you started. And the more you begin to water that side hustle, you'll see you'll get to a point where your salary is now 2 or 3 days work on your side hustle. Then you're spending time the whole month waiting for an amount which then now you can actually create in a couple of days. And then you now do an analysis of your time based on your side hustle, and you can decide whether to keep both or whether to give your full attention and zeal on your side hustle, because now you've seen, wait, Chinichi, it's actually gaining me some money and some traction, and now it's consistent. Most people don't like to leave and start, because starting may take time, because you've got kids, you've got bills, you've got expenses, which is why I say to people, don't do like what George did. George is a man of faith. George jumped off and he began his journey, and he had no plan B, and he said it must work come rain or sunshine. And George believed in the Proverbs 3 verse 5, trust in the Lord with all your heart and he will guide your paths. And God has never let George down because of George's faith.
That's it.
Now, it depends with you and your faith. For me, I am that guy who does not believe in, what if it fails? I'm that guy who says, God shall provide. It may be the last day of the month, God will just cause somebody.
God will provide, because that's your belief system and it works for you.
So with others, they don't like to operate on E. They want to be, I'm on half, it's not okay.
It's not okay.
But you have to be willing, which is why on the definition of entrepreneurship, there's a word called risk. That word is a huge definition of entrepreneurship, because it's not every business that started that actually excels. Most of them, they say 90% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. But it depends with the mindset of the failures, because failures for me, remember, like I've said, it's first attempt in learning. That's the abbreviation for fail. And there's something that you must have gotten wrong from your failures, but it's a good lesson for you to learn. Maybe you rushed it, maybe you squandered the profits too soon, maybe you didn't reinvest into the business. There's something that you would have done wrong. Or maybe you thought, like I did the first year, I thought I could do it by myself. I thought I didn't need anybody. I didn't need mentorship. I thought I am Captain George, like I am now, and I can fly my ship high without anybody's help. But in business, you definitely need people around you who are also in business, who tell you, listen, you've made your first $1,000. Don't get excited and spend that money. Reinvest it, so that you can make more and more. Only later do you then give back to yourself and pay yourself, so that at least you can get a little something to keep you going.
I was enjoying that so much. I was losing track of time. We got like 7 minutes left. This one says, Nani, educate me. Calling unoinzwa sei chaizvo. Ndine nyaya iri kundinetsa, but moment yandinoedza kuivhara-vhara, so ndinonzwa moyo wangu, like in my heart I feel fire. please help me. So probably she's getting a word, a confirmation of start this thing. She's got the qualifications, she's got the know-how, she knows exactly what she wants to do, but every time when she thinks about doing this thing, kuzuva.
Yeah. That's that 4-letter word, Becky, called fear. Right. So whenever somebody says it's a calling, there are people who many times, Becky, before I started my journey with Pro Air, many people would come and say, you're an entrepreneur. And I used to refuse it. And people said, George, that was your calling, and people were confirming. So the moment you see a lot of people, some you don't know, coming to affirm you on something that you never told them, but they are affirming and saying things about you, that's a way that God sometimes redirects people to go on a path that he wants them to. But because of fear, that 4-letter word is, and has held so many people all the way down to 6 feet under. And the words that come out from people later, I wish, die.
Yeah.
And they die with that business that they could have brought to life.
So this one must face your fears.
Face your fears. And like I said, the greatest secret to getting ahead, kutanga, get started. And you'll be amazed, in a month, your business, you'll get profits which you'll be shocked yourself. Say, but how did I buy 2 cars in the first 3 months of business? Only because you started and God was trying to redirect you where you should go. So face your fears, get started, and make that calling come to life by you taking action. You must take action to make that come to pass.
I will ask these 2 questions and hopefully you can answer them in the time that we have left. Just confirming that this question is still there. Okay. Auntie Becky, Mr. George is right. I heard someone say you can't do on 100 hectare what you have never done on 1 hectare.
A journey of 1,000 miles begins with 1 step.
Mm-hmm.
The word of God says, if you put a little on a little, soon it shall become much.
True.
And that's the same story with many prophets, pastors, business people. You first started preaching to 1 person, and now you can't count them. They're like the grains of sand, and that's it. But the first time, and this is the thing that people don't like, kutanga, creating a brand, it takes time, it takes a lot of effort.
Yeah.
But you must get started if you're going to want to have a lasting legacy, if you're going to want to become an entrepreneur. You can't come and become, overnight success. Anything that comes too quickly and too easily will not last long. We all know about that story. But if you want to become a seasoned entrepreneur who is going to have a business which lives longer than you, you're going to at least have to start it as a side hustle. Start it in your backyard. Don't wish for a perfect office, want a desk. Sometimes you will start it in your car, like I did with a manual quotation book, because you didn't have time to go and print out. All they want is your quotation, your details, your bank details, and the amount. You start small, but when you look back at how you started, just like all these other people, they started manually, on a bicycle, on foot. But now, all those household names in the world, they started off somewhere without all these perfect things, and now look where they are. So, with the word of God, it says, I can do all things, and all things are possible to he who believes. So if you believe in entrepreneurship, it will work for you, just like the multitudes of people you see who are successful entrepreneurs. But if you don't believe in it, that is up to you. You can remain on your job and think George is being very provocative by calling it just over broke. But it is just that. But when you begin the journey of entrepreneurship, you begin to see a freedom. It's called financial freedom, Becky. Finances will not be anything to worry about. And you also have a freedom of time to be able to do what you want. Right now, you can't go and support your kids at sports because you are stuck in that job. You can't be able to do some of the things you would love to do because you are stuck. So some of those things will only happen. Entrepreneurship brings forth financial and freedom. Those 2 things are essential and what God ordained that people should have. We all need financial freedom, but it won't happen to you as long as you remain stuck where you are.
Yeah.
Remember, you are not a tree
You can move, man.
You don't have to stay where you are.
But
you
even
can
a
move.
tree, you're gonna breathe.
Yeah, but it will not grow where you put it,
It
Becky.
won't grow, exactly.
So we need to move and start
Yeah.
getting things done.
Yeah.
And we need to.
And finally, this one says, is it wise to register your side hustle? Is it necessary? It's a side hustle. It's not just a full-on business.
So
Should I register it?
my key thing, Becky, the last time I checked, when organizations are paying you, right? When you start a business and you want to be paid and you want your business to become great, you need to actually open what's called a bank account for it. So there are people out there who are social media influencers who are starting a side hustle. When you go to a formal registered organization, they'll say, please send me your invoice. And the meaning of invoice is your inner voice, so that we can pay you to where you want us to pay. And when they see your bank account name, and most of the time they don't pay to a personal account, they'll ask for your tax clearance, your company registration documents, and once you're done with that, then they'll pay you. So in any country, there's more money that will come to a company account than a personal account.
Right.
So it's important to register your business, so that at least when you are now sending invoices to organizations, they may not like Becky K or George, but your business has a name, and then they will just pay that. So it's important to register your business.
It's important to register the business. You heard it from Uncle Billy. If you missed out on this edition of Hustle Hard, you can catch it on our Facebook page and also on our YouTube channel. It is 1 o'clock on Capital 100.4 FM. Stand by for the news.